Good morning, everybody. Thanks for jumping on. And today we're going to give everybody a minute or two just to get on, get settled down, grab your coffee, your tea, whatever your choice of drink is at this time in the morning. Just to confirm that the webinar today is being recorded as well. So if you do miss any bits of it, don't worry, you can go back and watch it through. Or if you've got any colleagues or anybody that is going to want to see a copy of it, then they can as well see that. I'm going to shortly hand over to Fernando to introduce himself properly. I'm David from XU Magazine, and we've ran a small series of webinars with QuickBooks now. We did one, I think it was last week or the week before, where we started to look at the overall sort of scope of MTD, where it's going. And I know a lot of people have been digesting that type of information. And what we wanted to do today was look at some real specifics in terms of how the process works of submitting that information to HMRC, the type of information that you might get back from HMRC or you might not get back, and actually how that process can work really well with QuickBooks and the systems that they've got in place as well. So it's going to be a really good practical session today. It's good to see people coming on, so feel free to put something in the chat box at the top, just so to make sure you can see and hear us. As we're going through the session today as well, please put any questions in as we're going along. If it's appropriate and it fits in with what we're talking about, we'll pick it up right away. If not, we are going to have a Q&A session at the end as well. So make sure you put any questions in, because we want to make sure that we get through all of those today as well, and it saves you forgetting it. So just feel free to drop that in at any point. We're not expecting to have any issues, but if for whatever reason the sound or visual goes a little bit odd, sometimes if you're in the browser, just refreshing it can then get it kicking back again. And like I say, because it's all recorded, if you do miss any of it, don't worry, you can watch it after and share it around as well. And this session is also CPD certified, so you get a CPD certification certificate for being on here. So Fernando, without further ado, I'll hand over to you to introduce yourself and go away with the topic of the day.
Thank you, David. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I hope you're having a really lovely week. It's a pleasure to be here talking to you about making tax digital. It's one of my favorite topics. I'm a principal product manager at Intuit. I've been with Intuit for over 3.5 years now, and I've been the main lead on making tax digital for income tax. So I've been all the way through preparation for 2024, through the delay, and now obviously as we are approaching the last few months before the mandate kicks off in April next year. So to give you an idea of what I will cover today, I will be talking about our product lineup, how our product lineup will support your clients and potentially yourself as well, in the case that you are a sole trader or affected by making tax digital as well. And then I'll share the journey of what it is actually to send an update through QuickBooks and how simple that process is. And I'll be answering any questions, like David said, that you may have throughout the process. So feel free to put them in the chat and we'll pick them as we go. And I will try to also make it very tangible and specific. We are on the pilot right now. I'm talking to many accountants and bookkeepers on a daily basis about the process, our product. So I'm bringing with me a few what I believe are a few really good insights on questions that I just get on a daily basis that I think will help clarify the process. But without further ado, let's get going. So the MTD journey obviously has been going on for quite some time. We've been through a few delays, but we're now, as I said earlier, approaching that last mile. We're 9 months, I think, if I'm not mistaken, before April arrives. And you've probably been on this journey, right, where you are trying to get your clients ready. You're trying to obviously attract new clients as well as your practice may be growing, and you're thinking about what the right software is for them, and then you're trying to onboard them. And throughout that process, Intuit as a platform is getting ready to support you. So whether you are an accountant who are trying to get ready for your clients, well, we have the pilot, which is allowing you to prepare, to understand the process, to give feedback, to help us improve the product. If you're trying to attract new clients, we have a platform that through MailChimp can help you automate communications to your clients. And obviously we have the Pro Advisory Directory, which gives you lots of insights. When it comes to software, I'll cover just in a minute. Obviously, we have a full lineup that it's geared up to support your MTD clients, whether they are extremely simple sole traders to maybe sole traders that are a little bit more complex and require more advanced features to run their business. And then when it comes to onboarding, we have again, lots of products and services, whether that's Practice Manager, agentic support, and our assisted onboarding services as well that can help you as a practice or your clients to get ready to use software. This is kind of like how we see the MTD journey. Is not one thing setting up, it's actually a range of tools and services. So feel free to reach out as well after this webinar to your account manager, and they will help get more information around how we are supporting you for MTD. But when it comes to our MTD stack, MTD for income tax will be available across all our products. So from Ledger all the way to Advanced, anyone that is set up as a sole trader or a landlord will have access to making tax digital for income tax at no additional cost. Ledger is our most simple product, only accessible for accountants and bookkeepers through QuickBooks for Accountants. It basically expects that the customer will not interact with the product, only to connect their bank account. And they are very simple, and you almost like do it from them, but you get the benefits of the automation provided through banking, digital records kept directly in software, and then obviously filing that to HMRC. And then we move up in our lineup to QuickBooks Sole Trader, which I'll cover in just a minute. We launched it last November. It's our basic product for this audience, but with capabilities of mobile app, receipt capture, banking, and built on a lot of the feedback that we receive from agents. So then the ones that probably you're more familiar, like Simple Start, Essentials Plus, and Advanced. I want to call out as well that underneath all of these products is QuickBooks for Accountants. And I know that many of you are agents who will be affected by MTD, and you probably use the free license that we provide with QuickBooks for Accountants to manage your business. I get a lot of questions around when will this be available. I can say that we're very close to releasing it to customers who wish to put themselves as pilot customers. We have a few agents testing this for us, and we'll be hopefully launching by the next quarterly update. So the good thing about the pilot is that you do not have to join at the beginning of the tax year. You can join anytime, and then when you send an update, you'll just catch up with obviously all your applications at that point. But if you had this question in mind, well, then just to let you know that yes, it will be supported as well at no additional cost in the free license that we provide with QuickBooks for Accountants. So QuickBooks Sole Trader, like I just said, is the product that we launched last November, and it's the product that we believe will be key for the audience that will be affected by making tax digital. We think it will be a great fit for this audience for many reasons, but particularly because what these customers need is a cheap and effective software that allows them to get the job done, allows them to get the benefits of digital software so that they can invoice, they can connect their bank, they can keep digital records, they can see their tax estimate and prepare taxes, but also it's not complex. They can just access it on the phone, and they can also have an agent, whether that's a bookkeeper or an accountant, use it as well. So the business type that we see using this is sole trader and simple landlords. What we mean by simple landlords is those with one or two properties that are all the same type, and they just manage them on a single kind of profit and loss. They can be new starters or established businesses, and they have income tax and CIS needs, particularly subcontractors. So Sole Trader supports CIS for subcontractors. If your customer is a contractor, Simple Start is the right product for them. They have no employees, like I said, simple sole traders or landlords, and they're just finding their footing, and they need something very simple. Now, when you read this, you think that, well, QuickBooks had a product for this audience, which was QuickBooks Self-Employed. But QuickBooks Self-Employed never resonated with agents. We had lots of feedback around the limitations that it provided to you as a bookkeeper and accountant, and we built Sole Trader thinking about that and trying to build on those gaps that product had. So the way that QuickBooks Sole Trader works is that you can connect multiple bank accounts, so that it makes it very easy to keep digital records. And we're using our latest AI technology to automatically categorize transactions based on whether they're personal and business income. And this is very important because these customers have very blended lives when it comes to personal and business. And they usually need to use the same card for a transaction. So they need to make sure that if there is a transaction that is for personal, they can just extract that from the actual books. The automation as well facilitates that everything gets posted really quickly, so that when you come in, you have a complete view of what has been brought from the bank, from those digital records. And then it also gives you the opportunity to mark things as review. So as an agent, you can just check or uncheck and control and keep those digital records with high accuracy and visibility throughout the tax year. It's very simple as well to split transactions, which it might not be for this sort of customers in some of the higher SKUs. So if you have a transaction that is partially business, partially personal, you can very easily go in, add those amounts, and the software will basically put that personal expense outside of the books and ensure that that does not get included in any quarterly updates, as we will see in just a minute. But there are other features that we heard from accountants from QuickBooks Self-Employed that didn't resonate, like, for example, not having double entry bookkeeping and not having a customizable chart of accounts. So QuickBooks Sole Trader defaults everything to a simplified version of the self-assessment forms, whether that's an SA-103 or a SA-105 in the case that it's a landlord or a sole trader. But as an agent, you'll be able to add other accounts, which gives you a lot of flexibility when it comes to giving your clients the right tools that allows them to manage their business, but also you have the right tools to understand how to best serve them. All of this then will be automatically mapped into the self-assessment forms when it's time to send those quarterly updates to HMRC. In terms of other features that QuickBooks Sole Trader has, it has a very simple upgrade path for higher SKUs. This was also a very important piece of feedback when we thought about QuickBooks Self-Employed, where it wasn't very simple to move up the lineup in the case that the customer became more complex and they needed more features. It doesn't have VAT, but it does have accrual and cash accounting. And like I said, it has CIS, income tax, simplified invoicing, and the mobile app as well on the go, so that they can, your customers can snap receipts with their mobile app, import those into the software, and get them automatically added into the books. So if you want to learn more about QuickBooks Sole Trader, go to our website. We have a lot of information there and demos, and then again, speak to your account manager as well if you want to learn more about the pricing, the features, or potentially get a demo. Now moving into making tax digital for income tax. So I don't want to spend lots of time going through the actual process. I'm sure that by now you're more than familiar with what the process looks like, but I always like to kick it off and just put it briefly on screen, because it doesn't matter how many times I've said it, there's always something that people learn new about the process, or myths, or things that have changed from 2022 now that as we move into 2026. But on the top, you see here the current process. So you'll manage the client books, you'll calculate probably throughout the tax year estimates for your clients based on additional income sources, allowances, their own personal circumstances. And then at the end of the year, you'll complete the self-assessment forms and then submit the SA-100 with additional non-business income and allowances, and then file that to HMRC, whether that's directly through HMRC's portal or using tax filing software. And underneath in green is the MTD process. So you can see that the boxes pretty much line up what exists today, with the there are two biggest differences on the first two boxes. The first one is quarterly submissions. So customers will have to send quarterly updates or to HMRC based on income and expenses. And if those updates are sent late, there's a new penalty point system. Go to HMRC's website to learn more, but obviously they will be penalized if they do this late. And then on the back of each update, HMRC can generate a tax calculation at that point in time for that individual. And this is very important because this tax calculation comes directly from HMRC, has all the information that HMRC has on that individual, but it's very limited to that point in time. So it doesn't forecast at this point in time. So it just tells you, well, at this point, this customer might owe this. This can be very useful to many customers. It gives them an estimate. Might not very useful to customers that have very seasonal businesses. I think it will be a little bit up to you to see how you manage these tools that MTD provides to better serve your clients and just provide them with additional services that might be very beneficial for them throughout the tax year. When it comes year end, you submit the full quarterly updates, and then you go to submit the end of the year adjustment. So before, there's a part of the process called end of period statement that doesn't exist anymore. So if you heard the term EOPS or end of period statement, that's not part of the MTD process right now. What customers need to do is they have the opportunity to submit accounting adjustments directly to the figures provided to HMRC during those quarterly updates. Once that has been done, then the customer can go and proceed to submit what is called the final declaration, which will be all additional non-mandated income and allowances, etc., and then just close that tax year, see their final tax calculation, and then proceed to make a balancing payment if required or get a refund. I think payments is another one as well that I would like to clarify. Payments are not affected by MTD. They will continue to be as they are today. So you have 2 payments on account and 1 balancing payment when the final declaration is presented. Another thing that I wanted to call out on quarterly updates is that the way that HMRC has built the APIs is that they're cumulative. So the information is always updated to the latest totals that HMRC has. So the requirement is to send one update at least a quarter, but it doesn't have to be that you need to send the quarterly information. So in the pilot, we have lots of agents that have shared their feedback that they want to share information up to the end of the quarter. And we're building that feature for them. But the requirement might be that you actually send a little bit more, because what you want to get is an accurate tax calculation at the point of sending it. And for that, you need actually year-to-date information. So there are great benefits in the way that the technology is being built, so that it gives you flexibility to, again, control the process and better serve your customers. But I wanted to clarify that the requirement is to send the quarterly update, not the information for a quarter. Now, how do you access MTD? So let's go now into the process. So if you are an agent serving someone that is a sole trader or an landlord across the QBO lineup that I shared, you'll go into taxes and into income tax, and then you'll land in our income tax center, which looks pretty much like this. This has been recently redesigned, and you can see tax calculation based on a profit or loss and that mapping of the self-assessment form. There's a big banner on the top that says join the pilot, and if you click on it, it will take you to the authorization process. Before you get into this stage, you must have onboarded or voluntarily signed up your clients to MTD through HMRC. That does not happen in QuickBooks. It's a separate process. So if you search online, voluntarily sign up my client to MTD, that will pop up. The first page that shows up is HMRC's. You go there, you complete that process, and then you go through. Now, you need to also have a digital handshake through your agent services account to complete that authorization process. But what is most important, you need to use those credentials to complete the authorization process that we are going to go through right now. I've seen lots of agents over the last few weeks use their legacy credentials to do the authorization, which at the end results in an error, because obviously those are not the credentials that are used to manage the income source of your client. So make sure that when you go through this process, you're using your ASA credentials. So if you click on join the pilot, you'll be prompted with a page that explains a little bit more and provides guidance and links to further pages with information. And then at this point, you're redirected to HMRC. So you leave QuickBooks for some time, and then you connect using your agent services credentials. You'll be asked information, 2 types of information. One is information about the client that you are authorizing right now, that you're connecting to QuickBooks, and then they will ask information about yourself as an individual. And this is also very important. I get lots of questions on this. Is why is HMRC asking information as me as an agent? Is HMRC is trying to validate that you are a real person associated with that agent services account. So I know it might seem confusing, but keep through the process. The information that HMRC asks is like a passport, driving license, self-assessment information. There are quite a few options. You select to provide those. They verify your identity, and then at the end of it, you get to a point where the authorization has been successful, and then you return to QuickBooks. If everything has gone well, we have an authorization token that is stored against your QuickBooks for Accountants. which means that the good thing is that you don't have to go through that process for every single client. There's one token against your QuickBooks for Accountants. And then what we need to do now is connect a specific income source into the QuickBooks Online that you're trying to authorize. If you have 100 clients, they all need to be obviously on the same ASA connected to that QuickBooks Online, for Accountants. And then you'll go client by client, entering their NINO, which is the step of the process to connect those income sources into that QuickBooks license. We're looking into ways of automating this, so there will be more to come over the next few months. We appreciate that many of you might have hundreds of clients, and obviously there are great opportunities for us to serve you better at this stage of the process and complete those connections very, very quickly. But you enter your client's national insurance number, and then we retrieve the business income sources, as HMRC describes them, for that individual. So in this case, you can see that this customer has self-employment and property. You can connect only one income source to one QuickBooks Online. We will be providing automation so that when you send an update, those two are sent together and that we identify individuals. So there will be a lot more to share in the next few months. We have a great project going on to show how we will do this. But to be clear, you need one QuickBooks license per income source. So in this case, I'm connecting my self-employment to QuickBooks, and then the next step is to send the select the period type. So as default, every customer is put by HMRC into standard, which is from the 6th to the 5th, and then they have the opportunity to change this to calendar, which will be from the 1st to the last day of the month. The obligation period, what it means is that customers that are on calendar get a few more days because obviously their quarter has ended up slightly sooner, but the end date is always the same for all types of customers. Now, a big question as we'll get into the update process is that for the first year that you do a calendar election, your customers period will start on the 6th of April. And this is very important. The reason for this is because, like I said, HMRC defaults everyone to standard. So the systems which are new understand that their previous tax year ended on the 5th. So the new tax year, even if it's a calendar, needs to start on the 6th. Then it will end on the 31st, and then the last day of the quarter, and then until the 31st of March, and then the next year they will start on the 1st. So for those records that sit between the 1st to the 5th of April, and there are a few ways that you can manage those. Obviously, you can manually change the dates on those so that they are on the 6th onwards, or you can use accounting adjustments, which I'll share with you later, to complete those adjustments and ensure that those records are correctly included in the final tax calculation. But I know this confuses a lot agents when they get to that process where, like, I've selected calendar, why is it starting on the 6th? It's just the standard way that HMRC has designed this process. Okay, so Dave, I don't know if there are any questions, or should I crack on with?
Yeah, so we've just had one that's come through. So saying, can this just be done only on the sole trader QuickBooks licenses, or can this be done on the QuickBooks Plus for sole trader clients that are already submitting VAT via MTD?
No, it will be available across all licenses. So the process that you're seeing right now, it's the same for all our QuickBooks lineup, from Ledger all the way into Advanced, and it will be the same as well when we enable QuickBooks for Accountants.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
And then I think, did you cover when the pilot is going to be available?
Yeah, good question, Dave. So yeah, the pilot is available right away. So we've had many customers join over the last couple of months since the beginning of the tax year. And like I said earlier, the pilot can be onboarded anytime throughout the tax year. So if you feel like you need a little bit of time to just identify those clients, you can onboard them later. And then what will happen is that when you send your first quarterly update, you will just catch up with the obligations. During the pilot, there are no penalties for late quarterly submissions. That's part of the pilot rules. So it will have no impact, liability impact on your clients to onboard late.
Well, that's it so far.
Great. So so now I'm connected. as a customer, and then I can see the on the left hand side, I can see my report. That tax calculation still comes from QuickBooks, and I'll cover it in a minute. We're working on improvements. If you're a pilot customer right now, we're working on improvements so that we replace that calculation with what comes from HMRC. But if you've been on this and you still think that, like, see that calculation has not been accurate, it still comes from QuickBooks, and it only takes into consideration the sole trader or landlord income that is in that QuickBooks account. Anyway, moving on the tax year, it's time to send a quarterly update. We're actually at that point of the year right now. So you come into income tax, you need to make sure that you select the right tax year on the drop down at the very top. In this case, it says 24-25. Obviously, we're now on 25-26, so you'll select 25-26, and then you'll see that the first quarterly update has an option to send quarterly updates. So you'll click on Prepare Update, and it will take you to the Prepare Update process. So what we do at this stage is we retrieve all the income and expenses, all those digital records that are mapped in QuickBooks, and that sit in QuickBooks, and we map them into the self-assessment form, which is essentially an SA-103 or an SA-105, very similar to the ones that you're very familiar with for the current tax year. So that mapping is done for you. The way that we do that mapping is based on detail type. And at this point in time, the mapping is fixed. You can view the mapping, and you can view the digital records and the amounts that sit against each of those accounts or totals, as you see on this page, but the mapping cannot be edited. Now, these customers are usually very simple, and because we've automated a lot of the process of transactions coming into the books and the way they sit, so we expect that will not cause any issues, but we are also working on ways that we can help you control the mapping, especially for situations for agents that really want to edit the chart of accounts and have their own way of managing those income and expenses. But in here, you see total income, total expenses, and then those blue totals will take you into an individual report for each of those, where you can see all the digital records that have been included in that amount. Another question that I get as well is, at this point, what information is shared with HMRC? This is the information that is shared with HMRC. So for each of these accounts, we share a total. We do not share the individual digital records, and at the same, we do not share this level of information, which is a high level income and expenses and a net profit or loss. So we're sending that self-assessment form directly to HMRC. Now, like I said earlier, the way that we send information as of now is cumulative. So if you're on the pilot and you go today and you want to send an update for one of your clients, it will include information from the beginning of the quarter up to the 9th of July, which is today. We've heard feedback from agents that they want to control this and just include the quarterly information, and that's something that we're working on. So at the end, what you'll have is control over just quarters or year to date. The requirement from HMRC is that you send once a quarter, not that you send the quarter. And again, the benefit of sending year to date is that when the calculation is generated, you will get a year to date figure rather than something more constrained to reduced timelines. Once you send that update to HMRC, we'll get a confirmation and we'll show that to you. HMRC has received your update, and we're working as well on ways that we can get this confirmation for your records and for your clients' records as well. What happens next is that with the information that we've shared, we can trigger a calculation. And this calculation takes into consideration what you've shared with HMRC, but additional information that HMRC might have on this individual. So if your customer is using another software, for example, to track property income, and they've also sent that update to HMRC separately, then HMRC will take those two, and then they can give us. If your customer has pensions and HMRC has record, we will see that. If your customer has employment, you will see that here as well. It all comes from HMRC, and the benefit of MTD is that HMRC becomes the source of truth for all of this information. So there's always that reference of what HMRC as a tax agency has on each individual. Then final declaration and moving into the end of the year process.
Fernando, quickly just on that
Yeah.
before you move into the final declaration. Does HMRC send anything back like a submission certificate or anything once you submit the quarterly updates?
Yeah, that's a very good question. No, they do not. So, as part of MTD for income tax, HMRC is passing on the responsibility for software developers to provide those receipts. I know that there is a receipt number for VAT, and a lot of agents come to me and say, "Hey, Fair, where's the receipt number for income tax?" There's no receipt number for income tax. So when someone contacts HMRC regarding an update, what they usually ask is the national insurance number, and then in their systems they can see all the information provided. But we will be creating that way of tracking uh, when something has been submitted. We're also working on ways that you can forward to your clients things for approval first as well and track those in product. So there's a whole range of innovation that will be happening in this space between now and April next year.
Cool, that's it. Thanks.
So now is year end. You've sent your 4 quarterly updates. And you see those totals reflected on HMRC. If you go as well into your agent service account and see the customer, all of that is also tracked separate parallelly on HMRC's website. So it's time to complete end of year. End of year is split into 3 steps. The first one is to make accounting to do the tax allowances and adjustments. The second one is to make accounting adjustments. And then the third one is to just complete the income source summary and complete the final declaration. So those 3 things. Now, this is if your customer were to be an extremely simple sole trader or landlord, which I know many of you will say that, well, none of my customers are like that. They all have employment or savings income or dividends, etc. Then obviously that last step will increment for you to provide all of that additional information. But first, what you need to do is to complete the income source that is mandated, whether that's the sole trader or the property one. So first, the annual summary. So annual summary is, I think, it's a new term that is been introduced as part of MTD. You might have also heard annual submission, but if you look at the detail here, it's basically income adjustments, capital assets, accounting period adjustments, and national insurance contributions. So these are all very familiar to you as part of the self-assessment process. They all align to the income source that you're basically submitting for, with the exception of trading allowance. And then you can submit this as many times throughout the tax year as you want or need, but they need to be submitted before obviously you complete the final declaration. A lot of these things might not be used by many of your customers, so maybe it's a step of the process that you fully utilize, or actually you don't need. It will all depend on the complexity and the needs of each of your clients. Once you click send, the information will be shared with HMRC, and the HMRC then will be able to trigger and update a new calculation based on those adjustments and allowances that have been made or claimed. Now, the second one is the accounting adjustments. These are adjustments made to the total figures provided for each of the quarters at an aggregate level, an accumulative level. So it's not adjustments by quarter, it's by total, and that's what they actually provided only after the tax year has ended. This can be positive or negative values, and what they will basically provide is a revised total for each of those categories, and those will affect the way that the calculations are made. Now, these adjustments do not go back to QuickBooks, and that's a question that I get. They're a tool that HMRC provides to ensure that you can control and you can ensure that the accuracy of the numbers that have been provided throughout the tax year. Some software might treat disallowables in one way or another, and this just allows you to ensure that you have more compliant tools at your hand to ensure compliance at the end of the year. And what they will do is affect the tax calculation. Now you can make these adjustments over and over again until you submit final declaration, which at that point they will be logged and they will just be part of that final tax return for your client. And then the third and last bit will be to review the total what is called the business income source summary in a more like a technical jargon, but at the end is just review the figures that have been provided to date, review a final taxable net profit or loss, and then submit that and proceed to final declaration. This obviously is the total quarters provided. It would be the annual summary adjustments and allowances that we've seen, and it will also be the accounting adjustments that might have been made. Finally, is the final declaration, is confirming that you as an agent have reviewed and that the information is provided is correct, to the best of your knowledge. You tick the box, you send this, and then the final declaration is complete. Now, like I said, this will be in the situation where a customer is an extremely simple customer. They don't have marriage allowance, they don't have dividends, they don't have income, they don't have anything else. Like, that's it. If your customer has additional income sources, I'm going to cover right now what will happen and how we'll treat it. I won't be able to demo today that specific part of the journey, but I can say that we will be providing that view over the next couple of months. Basically, the way that we are approaching this is that HMRC will become the source of truth, and we're building a tax service that brings together all the information that is held across QuickBooks Online, but also giving you the opportunity to add all non-mandated income and allowances for an individual within our software. That will replace the need for any additional tax filing solution, because this will provide coverage for all customer types, from the most common scenarios to the least common scenarios as well. It will give you full compliance over the process, ensuring full coverage as well of your client portfolio. So the way that this will work is that once you've completed the process that I've seen, you'll have also the opportunity to add capital gains, dividends, etc., as you will normally do with any other software that you might use, or HMRC services, and then you'll send that to HMRC. You'll get a final tax calculation, and then you'll close the tax year for your client, which then will have to proceed to make a payment or get a refund based on their final balance. In terms of the pilot, like I said earlier, we have been on the pilot for quite a few years now. Since 2022, we were one of the first software providers to submit a quarterly update, and we were, I think, the only one that did a final declaration as well last year, end-to-end with one of our clients, which was an outstanding achievement for the team, as we've kept investing and improving our experience throughout the last few years. The pilot is now open to everyone. The eligibility criteria is almost complete. So a few years ago, you couldn't onboard customers who were calendar. Obviously, that's not sorted, or you cannot onboard customers that had a specific income sources. Now has been sorted as well. So it's very unlikely that you'll have clients that are not eligible to voluntarily sign up to the pilot. The way to do this is that you need to first go to HMRC. You need to log in with your agent services credential and voluntarily sign up your clients. And then you can come up to QuickBooks, and then you go through the process that we've seen today. And then finally, in terms of resources, obviously we have lots of resources available at hand. You have our MTD hub, which is accessible through our website, which includes a lot of the Pro Advisor demos and webinars that we've done on MTD, whether that's similar to this one on what the process looks like, to a specific webinars on how to better help you streamline the onboarding of clients into QuickBooks and identifying clients that might be MTD impacted. There is a calculator as well that will help you understand the amount of hours that you need to invest to get your clients ready. And then you also have the opportunity to join the pilot to get a first-hand experience on what the process looks like. And then also have the opportunity to have a great contribution as well to the way that we are building this. We're listening to a lot of feedback from our agents that are involved, and that's helping us include new features and new experiences that at the end of the day will benefit not only you as an agent, but also the individual taxpayer who will be affected by MTD. And I think that's everything that I have for today, Dave. So I don't know if there are any questions that at this stage I can answer for yeah, for them.
Yeah, there are. So thanks for that. That was really good. If you have got any questions, now's the time to ask them as well. We have got a couple that have come through. So one is, can I use another tax tool to still file the actual annual tax return if I've done the quarterly updates through QuickBooks?
Yes, you can. You'll just make sure that the tool that you are using is obviously fully compliant to your needs. But like I said earlier, the MTD, it's all about HMRC becoming the source of truth. So when we send an update, that information then is held on HMRC. When you do 4 updates, that information is held on HMRC. And likely what other software providers will do is that they will then retrieve that information and then allow you to proceed with those final stages of the tax filing process.
Perfect. That's great. And one question that's come through from somebody is, if we submit all of the information through QuickBooks and submit the tax return to HMRC through QuickBooks, can we pull off things like an SA 302 if we need that for the client to go and get a mortgage, for example, in tax year overviews?
Yeah, I think those are the specific, some of the specifics that we're working throughout. So I don't have an answer now on how that will be approached, but what I would suggest is that they reach out to the team and then keep a close eye on some of the latest experiences and improvements that we're going to be launching in the next few months.
Perfect. And then in terms of this might fall into that as well, but we've got one final question which just says, over time, will QuickBooks start to support other income types as well as sort of sole trader and landlord income, other income types that might fall onto that tax return?
Like I said, so I don't know if the question is specific to someone that is a sole trader and has additional income types, or someone that is not a sole trader but has, for example, needs to submit an AC 100. So I guess the answer is yes. So to both. So obviously, like I said, if someone is a sole trader and has additional income types, it will be supported by the solution that we're building right now and that I demoed today. If they are not sole trader but they have additional income types, our Pro Tax team, Books to Tax, are working on it, and I think there are quite a few launches planned this year to get coverage of that full self-assessment return for individuals.
Perfect, thanks. And that's all the questions so far. Just as a reminder to everybody, if you don't yet have a direct contact with anybody within QuickBooks and you want to ask some questions as a follow-up from this, or if it's anybody watching this recording, then you can just hit an email back to the webinar links that you would have received. That will come through and we'll make sure it gets passed to the right place as well. So that's all the questions. If you've got anything left just to wrap up with, Fernando.
No, Dave, thank you so much for the opportunity. Like I said, the pilot is a great opportunity to learn about the process, to just get very hands-on, not only on experiencing that yourself, but also contributing to what we're building. So I would just encourage everyone to consider bringing 1 or 2 clients to the pilot to start with, and then seeing how that looks like. And then over the next few months, we're going to be revealing very exciting experiences when it comes to managing those multiple income sources in QuickBooks.
Perfect. And then Robin's just pulled one question in just before we jump off. So I'm gonna rope it in because we've got a few minutes left. So one question is if you need to file an amended return after the final submission, can this still be done via QuickBooks as well?
Yeah, this will be done within QuickBooks as well. We'll just have the opportunity to reopen that return within the timelines that are compliant, and then just send that again to HMRC.
Perfect. Thank you for the question, Robin. So thank you so much for jumping on, everybody. Just confirm, if you want to share this around after, feel free. If you do want to get in touch and don't have a direct contact as well, feel free. We will be sending around a follow-up email as well to everybody. So feel free to get back in touch, jump on, and I'd advise everybody, if you're not doing it already, get on that pilot and get into the process now, because April is going to be here before we know it. And as we know, time is running away far too quickly. So just encourage everybody to do that. Thank you so much for the time today, Fernando. That's really good, really informative. We like these practical sessions because you can see what you need to do as well. So thank you so much for that, and have a great afternoon, everybody. Thanks for jumping on.
Yeah.